Taylor now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Guten Tag, wie geht's? Konnichiwa. All right, that's all I really have. Good day. Hello. Cheerio. Hello, Governor. It is Wind Down Wednesday right here on Spoony Radio. But before we get to Wind Down Wednesday, although I'm just drinking water today, no wine for me, thank you. And Jeff, I know you're not drinking wine in the booth either because we don't let you get, we just don't let you out much anymore, and no wine. How you been, man? I haven't seen you in like a couple days.
Yeah, been good, thanks.
Yeah, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was nice. Thanks for asking.
What are you doing this weekend for Mother's Day?
This weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to get back with you on that one.
Yeah, sleeping?
Yeah, I kind of forget that it's Mother's Day, and so I'm like, I'll have those last-minute errands. I'm going to have to excuse myself and run around.
Reminder, I just reminded you.
Just saying, it's kind of the way. I mean, you think this is bad? You got to check out Christmas. It's horrible.
I'm one of those. So I'm one of those people that when it comes to holidays, I'm a last minute shopper, and Christmas is probably the worst. The great thing is, as long as I have like 24 to 36 hours, I can make something that will work as a treat. Used to do truffles, biscotti, go out and buy some tins, some little ornate tins or painted tins, fill it up with just a mix of things, make some hard candies. I don't do that so much anymore, but it was a last-minute gift that, for me, it was less about the cost and more about the thought. And my mother was really cool about that. During the holidays, when I was little, she would make us make something for each other instead of buy something for each other, which I thought was really cool. Because you had to really think, what do they want or what would they appreciate? Or, this is the only thing I can make, so I'll paint you a picture with chalk and or some crayons and some construction paper. But that aside, yes, Mother's Day is coming up. So when Laura Geen comes on at the bottom of the second hour, that is 2:30 Central, 3:30 East Coast, we will be talking about potential menus for Mother's Day. But even better than that, what goes with almost everything on the menu? If you're going to do breakfast in bed, or brunch at the local 5-star or 2-star or no star or unrated establishment, what goes with that? And I'm sure you can guess, but we have some good references for that. And also, what are the 10 most questions that she, as a wine store proprietor, is asked? I think about that all the time. I was reading some articles about these stores in Napa, and these are some pretty elite stores. Napa, by the way, being in the U.S., of course, the haughtiest of hottest wine communities in the country. I'm not saying the snobbiest of snobbist, but as far as wine snobs go, wine connoisseurs go, it is full of them. And I can only imagine the questions that get asked. So I was reading an article, and I didn't even know what some of the questions meant. I was kind of curious as to that. And I'm pretty sure that these are not common everyday questions that the average person goes in and asks a clerk or even a sommelier working in a wine store. So we'll go through that. And then also the Bentonville Film Festival is going on in Bentonville, Arkansas. If you don't know, that is the home of Sam's and Walmart. It is also a place where Geena Davis, yes, the actress Geena Davis, has started a film festival. And it's been going on, I think this is its 5th year. It started in 2015. And it's a very, very, it's about women in film and empowering women, either as directors, actors, any role in the film industry. Although it doesn't seem like it's this ultra activist type of event. It's a huge festival. It's amazing. I've been to 5 or 6 of the films that were presented there, and it's a phenomenal experience. So if you're ever in that region during this time of year, I highly recommend it. Now, the reason I bring that up is that in the second half of the show, at the top of the hour, or maybe at the bottom of this hour, we'll talk about when you get ready to open a business as an entrepreneur. Excuse me, I just ate, apparently the spaghetti is not, there must have been dairy in the spaghetti. No, I'm not allergic to dairy. when you get ready to open a business, everyone wants to rush to capture the almighty dollar, because if you don't sell and you don't get open first, but if you don't sell, you can't survive. And there are a few fatal mistakes that entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs make when getting ready to open a business that can be detrimental or could even collapse the business before you ever really get started. I want to talk about a specific incident that in Northwest Arkansas. My former partner Barry Firaseth and I were rushing to get this venue open, and we made a bad call. It was very, very difficult. The timing was bad. We weren't prepared, and we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, I've been reading some articles about the trends in America and how the dining scene has changed. And if you've ever heard me talk about Dr. Stephen Hollingshead, a former business partner of mine and one of my mentors, just in life and as a, well, let's talk about him for a minute. This is a man who, I think I spoke about him last week. At 26, he received his PhD in religious philosophy from Marquette University. At 24 years old, he was running for the Senate in that state, the state Senate. And I think his birthday was the week before the election. He didn't win, but he did very well. He was the former CFO of Americans for Prosperity. He was also senior advisor to the director of HUD under George Bush Sr. He's a very accomplished gentleman. Now he works with displaced Kurds and other individuals, specifically in Iraq, that have no identity, so to say. So there's a photographer that he met, this young man who was doing these amazing photographs that were going viral all over the web. And people wanted to publish them, but they wanted to pay him for it. And so he would go around and do stories, but they had no way to pay him because he couldn't get a bank account, as he was unrecognizable, unidentifiable, because most people in Iraq and or in that region of his history, they have no birth certificate. They have no verification of lineage or heritage or parentage. Anyway, Stephen developed this whole program that banks around the world would recognize anyone based on the basically a scan of your hand. So once they can get a cell phone, but they can't get a bank account. Right? That was the issue. And so you can spend money, but you can't earn money, or you can't be paid in a way that's not cash and not traceable. So they came up with this. There's this software that recognizes your palm, and it recognizes like 200 points on each palm print. And so you just wave your hand over this thing, and it reads it, and it identifies you. Now you can go anywhere in the world, use that as your identity. Yes, I know we've all seen Face Off, or John Travolta and Nick, I'm going to call Bravo Sierra on that one. That wouldn't work. I'm just saying they aren't even the same size. Come on, John Travolta's... Okay, now they're not the same size. Well, no, Nicolas Cage got love it. Maybe now they're the same size, but then no, not the same height, not the same build, definitely not the same shape of face, and different colored eyes. So, but the palm, and I don't think they're going to go hand off. I don't think they're going to come up with a movie where you exchange hands and use the other's palm print to identify yourself. But it's very cool technology, and he's really making advancements and helping out with those that don't have the ability to earn in these economies where you can't get private or even public investment because there's no labor force that can be verified as payable. So, all that aside, Stephen and I, we started. This is the first example of not knowing your business model, right? And that'll lead you to my second story here about McDonald's, right? Actually, let's start with McDonald's. Let's talk about the history of McDonald's. We all think about Ray Kroc. Okay, Ray Kroc, he built McDonald's, took it to these $1 billion in sales, or billion burgers in sales. But really, if you go back before that, the McDonald's brothers there was a barbecue stand, right? In California. This little place, it looked like a little diner, a little drive-in, and they didn't do well. Matter of fact, a couple of years later, they closed, and they didn't want to quit, so they revamped it. They re-outfitted the food service equipment, changed the style of service a little bit, and they came up with McDonald's, and they streamlined production so that I think it was 122 seconds. In 122 seconds, they could actually 180 seconds, somewhere in there, they could go from a burger's order to being placed in your hand, and 112 of those seconds were the burger being cooked. That's from scratch, way back then. This is in 48, when McDonald's, the burger establishment, was founded. So back then it was 15 cents a burger. And their idea was they had this big thermometer outside. They had like 1,000 burgers in sales, I think really like a couple of weeks in. Maybe it was a month or so. But when they got that 1,000th burger, they painted this big thermometer out front, and it said 1 million at the top. And when they got to 1 million, they kept painting as they got closer to the millionth mark. They were going to have a local artist come in, and they were going to paint this big explosion at the top. Like they had blown the top off the thermometer, and they had exceeded 1 million burgers. Well, it didn't take long. That was in 1948 when they established the burger chain. By 1952, this before Ray Kroc came aboard, they were doing. They had several locations on the West Coast only. They were doing $1 million burgers a year, selling 1 million burgers a year, and 160 tons of fries per year. 160 tons. I'm going to do the math on that real quick. So 160 tons is, if you say each one is, say, 6 ounces, right? So 6 ounces. We'll say it's 8 ounces, which we know it's not. That's two per pound, right? So we have 160. What is that? 2,000 pounds per ton times 2,000. That's 320,000 pounds. All right, so we're going to times that by. Is that right? Yeah, okay. 320,000 pounds times. Let's say. No, that can't be right. 160 times 2,000. Okay. Okay. We're going to say it's probably 4 ounces per fry. So we're going to multiply that by 4 because there's 4 times 4 is 16 ounces. There's 4 per. That's 1.28 million orders of fries. That's probably about right. About a million burgers, 1.3 million fries, because they had other things. People just get fries. It was cheaper. All right. So at this time, Ray Kroc gets involved, 1954. He comes on board. And Ray Kroc, if you don't know, was if you've never seen the movie, regarding him and McDonald's, it's played by Tom Hanks. He was a milkshake salesman.
I'm sorry. It wasn't Tom Hanks. It was Michael Keaton.
I'm sorry. Oh, you're right, because Tom Hanks is much older.
Right. And
Actually.
He didn't like McDonald's.
No, he didn't. He didn't. That's funny. And Ray Kroc used to say, I didn't invent the burger. I just loved it more than anyone else. He was full of quips like that, actually. But, so in 1954, Ray Kroc comes aboard. And at that point, McDonald's had sold somewhere around 15 million burgers. So between 1952 and 1954, they hit 1 million a year in 1952. By 1954, they had sold 15 million. 1955, Ray Kroc opens his first location in Desmond's, Iowa. Yes, Des Moines. I know it's Des Moines. And by 1958, because he was the first one to take the chain off the West Coast to move it east, by 1958, they'd sold 100 million burgers. 100 million. That's ridiculous when you think about it. That's crazy. Now, by 1960, 2 years later, they had sold 400 million burgers, or individual patties, actually. All right, so we fast forward a bit, and today's numbers are really okay. We don't have it 2018, but 2017, so as far as I go back. I can't. It's hard to fathom this, but we'll go through the numbers really quickly. By 1963, they were getting ready to sell their billionth burger. Ray Kroc had bought the brand, and he was a master promoter. He really was. And the billionth burger, what they had calculated to be approximately the billionth burger, Ray Kroc actually walks into to Art Linkletter's show. And if you don't know who he is, look him up. He had a variety show. And he walks in and he actually serves the burger personally to Art Linkletter. That was the 1 billionth burger, in theory. And then what's interesting, so in 1969, they hit the 5 billion mark. Nobody said anything. McDonald's didn't do anything. But when they hit the 10 billion, they really, it all went under the radar. All of it. It just, it's like the person in the back of the house or the back of the CPA and the accountant, the bean counter, They were supposed to be counting the patties. They I don't know if they quit, died, went on permanent vacation because they'd earned enough money from McDonald's stock. I don't know what happened, but that person apparently disappeared or didn't do their job because they stopped counting. They stopped publicly saying how many burgers. And if you'll notice now, even most all McDonald's signs, none say the exact number. They'll say billions and billions or over 100 billion, whatever it happens to be. They never give a precise count because they can't keep up with it. But to give you an idea, in 2013, these were the numbers. McDonald's sold 75 burgers worldwide, 75 per second. That's 4,500 per minute. 270,000 burger patties an hour. 270, wait, okay. I got it. I didn't even do, I recalculated the math. Because I read this and I was like, no, 75%, that can't be 4,500. Yes, 75 per second is approximately 4,500 per hour or per minute. Times that by 60, that's about 270,000 per hour. 270,000 burgers an hour. If you make a penny a burger, right? A penny a burger, 0.01 times 270,000, $2,700 an hour. That's if the corporation just got 1 penny per burger, which they get more. All right. That equates to 6,480,000 burgers a day. And that's 2.4, basically 2.4 billion burgers a year. 2.4 billion burgers a year. How's your hamburger over there, Jeff? So can you tell him in the restaurant business? So Jeff's back there. He's like working the board. He's taking a bite, working the board, and of course I wait till he has a big bite of food. And I'm like, hey man, how's your meal? Is everything okay, sir? Can I get you another glass of water? Would you like some more food? Is everything good? He's got a
yeah, we're good.
It's our little restaurant humor there. They don't teach you that, but we all know what to do.
It's some great math. I mean, that really is phenomenal.
Isn't it crazy?
The Ray Kroc story is mind-boggling. And you know where he really started making a whole lot of money? Just wasn't in the burgers, but was the actual real estate part too.
That's right. So McDonald's was smart. They would buy the real estate, and then if they weren't going to operate, they would sell the franchise but own the real estate, right? And we'll talk about some other models in a minute with when it comes to fast food and how they differ. But that's crazy. That's 2.4 billion burgers a year. It took them 1963. So it was 48 to 63 is 15 years. 15 years to get to 1 billion burgers. And now we're past this number, but now it's 2.5 billion per year. It's absolutely astounding when you think about it. Now, I'm not saying that I don't dislike McDonald's. I'm not a fan of McDonald's. I really don't think about McDonald's very much, except their growth model over the first 50 years of their lifespan was phenomenally brilliant. I mean, it was a very smart business model. It was brilliant, really. But if you think about adding all those up, I did a little math. I read some other articles. The total number, because I was curious, how many hamburgers have they sold in their lifetime, in the lifetime of the franchise? Up until 2017 or the end of 2017. This could be off by, I don't know, as much as 10, 20, 30, 40 billion, doesn't really matter. They could be well over the next rounded up 100 billion, or they could be slightly under the number I came up with it. Up until 2017, by the end of they had sold approximately 377 billion burgers. 377 billion. So if you think, what's the population right now? 7? I want to say we're right around 7 billion, right? Let's do it. Hey, let's go back and cover this article up. So, current population on Earth. All right. So I actually went to the day of 6 billion. There was a big. It was actually right before I moved to Japan. Phil Donahue was hosting this this big event in New York City, and it was called the Day of 6 Billion. It was approximately around the time of year that the 6 billionth person on Earth would be born, and it was in 1989, actually. It was a very cool event. Got to meet him. Didn't always agree with him, but what a phenomenal personality from television of days gone by. And actually, if you go back, you can look up Phil Donahue on YouTube, and he had some really interesting interviews over all these years. He really set the standard for the modern day talk show up until maybe the last 10 or 15 years, as it's evolved over the last 50, 60 years. But it was very, but to think it was 6 billion in 1988, 7.5 billion in 2017. Okay, 7.5 billion. We take about 377 billion hamburgers. These are people that are living. This is not people ever born, right? This is the current population. All right, Apple, you're really starting to upset. You're as bad as Facebook right now. Can I tell you? You can't update the facial recognition on here unless you update your firmware. And yeah, it's because I don't know the password. It's really starting to. So if somebody doesn't call, you don't text, or I don't get a voicemail, I can't open the damn phone. I can't take it to the Apple store. I can't do anything. That's probably the most ridiculous thing ever. Okay, well, actually, the most ridiculous thing ever is I don't remember what my password is because I'm a 51-year-old man who remembers how to write stuff down for everything but my Apple products. Okay. Anyway, so if you 377 billion, we're going to do 377, and we'll go with the current population. So 377 divided by, we'll say it's 7.5. All right, 7.5 billion. So just this year, wow, I got it. Wow, this is worse than I thought. Wow, no, this is worse than I thought. Just this year, the average resident of this rock we call planet Earth, no way, 50 hamburgers per person will be produced by McDonald's. Now, that's not the astounding part. Yeah, 50 hamburgers, okay, I understand, because some people eat a McDonald's hamburger every day, some people never eat them. But if you think, I'll bet that not more than half of society eats McDonald's, because although they're in every country in the world, but it's got to be close to half. I can't imagine it's more than that. So if you think about half the population does not eat McDonald's, yet there are 50 per person produced this year per person. You have to double that. Now it's 100 burgers per person that actually consumes McDonald's. On average, if you spread that out among those consumers, that would be 100 burgers this year per consumer. I have nothing more to say. And we wonder why we might be a little overweight. I'll admit, you know what? I'll admit on Friday, one of the jackholes, one of our listeners, one of our, I won't say fans, our listeners, right? Because fan implies that I'm arrogant and I'm okay. No, not really. I really, it's not about attention. It's about spreading love for food and family. But one of the listeners brought McDonald's in because they were trying to be kind and feed us. Now, I ate a burger. I'm not too proud to eat McDonald's hamburgers. I didn't feel well because there was something wrong with the food. There are certain preservatives that don't do well in my system, and so I always pay for it later. Soon after. So think about that though. If you spread this out among McDonald's consumers, maybe it's even 70%. That's still 75 burgers per person. If you average it out, which means some people eat 300 to 400 burgers, and some people might eat 20 or 10 or 5 or 2. It's astounding when you put those numbers together. All right, so we'll talk about timing, right? Timing when it comes to planning your business. And again, I am the Food Biz Pro, but I'm a consultant of all business in general. I love business. I love the business of business, and restaurants are a real business. It's not a social experiment. It's not entertain my friends. Let's drink together. Let's feed the family. Yes, that's true. You get a discount, but you still have to pay for the food you're feeding, the drink you're drinking, and all that stuff you give away to your friends, right? So it's still business. Well, we'll talk about that, how you can be untimely in your business, And sometimes how your personality might not match up to what you're doing. Anyway, Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. The first course of the day is done. Appetizers have been eaten, digested, and come back next course. It's super salad. Let's more talk about franchises, basically, and a little business advice from me. We'll be right back.
Follow Chef Patrick.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
Funny name, but I've done it with Riduzone. RIDUzone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism,
Yes,
so you're
it does.
burning more.
Yeah, it
Try
does.
it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. Riduzone.com. RIDUzone.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
And happy Wednesday. I was like, happy birthday. Wasn't that from Frosty the Snowman, where every time he comes back to life, he's happy birthday. Yeah, it's his birthday. Happy birthday. You don't remember Frosty the Snowman?
No, I do. I was trying to remember. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but I think you're right.
Yeah, me too.
Happy birthday.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's always like he comes back to life because the cold breeze comes through, and I always thought that was interesting. Like, happy birthday. Well, I guess it's his birthday, and he could announce that, so why not? Every day should be your birthday, really. You woke up alive. I'm alive. It's happy birthday. Hey, treat myself. You know what? I don't think that people. I'm not a big fan necessarily of holidays. I'm not, because I kind of got a little. I don't want to say disgruntled, but put off by holidays.
How about jaded?
Yeah. I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to use it because I was like, am I really jaded? Yes, I am. I don't want to say that, but yeah, I was. I become jaded by holidays, especially the ones that were made up by companies looking to make money and capitalize off of a particular holiday for their industry. Valentine's Day was made up by the chocolate industry, so on and so forth. Look, I get it. I understand. It's a nice day to tell your loved ones how much you love them and sharing that, and the Easter Bunny thing on Easter. Now, granted, that came from Germany, a country I love, but it was a long time ago, like the 1600s. But what the hell is it with a rabbit giving out eggs? I don't get it. I mean, if I see a rabbit laying eggs, I'm running the other direction, because that's nothing. That's nothing from this earth. That's some sort of devil spawn. And look, normally I'd see any kind of animal like that, think, lunch. I'm thinking evil. Bye. But yeah, it's and the rabbits around. They didn't look like the rabbits we have. These cute little fluffy bunnies that we see on Easter here. Anyway, that aside, holidays kind of. I'm not really about holidays. I love the celebration, but as a chef, they're just the hardest days in a restaurant. Mother's Day is, I don't want to say the worst. It's the most difficult. It's the most challenging, because look, if you break mom's heart, I'm going to call you every day for a week. I'm going to badmouth you on Yelp, and everybody in our community, everybody in our community is going to hate you because mom she didn't get her eggs Benedict on time. Okay, well, I understand that everybody has you have your timeline because you gotta do whatever. If you go to church or whatever you do to celebrate in the morning, you go to lunch or brunch or dinner, and look, look, Mom has pampered us and taken care of us for our entire lives. I don't care if you're 4 or 14 or 60. Mom is still wiping your whatever. All right, doesn't matter if it's your mouth, the back of your ear, whatever. Right? Okay, most moms. We'll say most moms. But that, I mean, we take it very seriously. We want to give back to Mom, and we make it a special occasion. So we'll give you a reminder that Jeff Wetzel, the Cowboy Chef, who's on here on occasion, hopefully tomorrow, will be calling in with a fishing report from Northwest Arkansas, because I'm sure he's trying to get away from Bentonville where all the film watchers are. But he said, be patient with your servers and be kind to all the staff. And most of all, if you present yourself and act in a patient manner, you're not just doing yourself, not paying honor to yourself. You're paying honor to yourself and to your servers and the staff, but you're also setting a great example for those generations that are younger than us. I'll be honest with you. I, over the years, may have had a short temper and been impatient. I think that my chef personality, my kitchen personality, which was always present because I worked 24/7, which was stupidly so, was present and right behind the veil all the time. And sometimes in public situations, I would be very impatient. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to give that example for your children, your loved ones, and to those who brought you up to know better, or that should have brought you up to know better. Now you get to show them that they should know better. Right? There you go. Better yet, it's a teachable moment both directions. But anyway. Be patient, enjoy, and I'm really sorry. I apologize for the entire chef community if for some reason your experience goes wrong. All right, so I want to tell you 3 examples of businesses where I was involved, we made very poor decisions. Well, some misinformed or uninformed, and one that was blatantly incorrect against my better judgment. So the first one is I just talked about McDonald's. So I have this good friend, and Stephen Hollings said, look him up online. He's a really interesting character. This is a guy who figured out how to trace laundered money. He built an algorithm to trace laundered money in small amounts, as small as like $100,000 at a time. And they're testing that in the institutional banking systems around the world. Right, a brilliant guy. So he developed a model for home meal delivery. In the Houston area. And you've heard me talk about it. It's called bringdinnerhome.com. It's no longer in existence. This was a long time before Blue Apron and all the other home meal kits that came along. And I had moved to Houston in October of 2001. And I ended up taking a job with him. They had had a consulting chef come in and kind of set up their menu, and they had another chef that they had to get rid of. It just wasn't working out. So I came in and we simplified things from a production standpoint. But here's the general idea behind the business. Basically, we did what we called shop, chop, and drop. We did all the extra work for you so that time that you could be spend with your family, or that extra half an hour at work if necessary, so you didn't have to take it out of your family time, or the time that was spent shopping or whatever happened to be. That extra hour, we calculated, was an hour and 20 minutes a day to cook your dinner. By the time you go shopping, count in travel time, cook time. We didn't even count in the cleanup, right? So we cut the cleanup time in more than half. I think we took out 70% on average. So here's what we do. You would go to the website. We had 3 tracks of meals. We had a gourmet menu. Basically, 2 entrees a day were gourmet. And that was 2 entrees. It had 4 different sides and a couple of desserts to choose from. And then, of course, our regular standard breads and sides. Then we had like it was called like a family track. Those were like beef stew or pastas with sauce and some other things like that. Things that, oh my gosh. We made this thing and it was called, it was this pasta dish. Not Moroccan. I'll think of it in a minute, but it's basically elbow macaroni, this is a real pasta dish. Elbow macaroni that has this really heavily spiced ground beef that's mixed into it with an egg custard. It's put into a loaf pan and then it's baked. And when it comes out, you slice it, you let it cool, cool down in the refrigerator, and you take it out of the container and you slice it into 1-inch thick pieces and you bake it in the oven. Oh my gosh, that was like one of the best. And then you served it with this sauce on top that we made from scratch. And so though that track of meals, the gourmet track was like chicken marsala. So you had a clean chicken breast, cryovac, basically vacuum packed. Sliced mushrooms. You had the marsala sauce, 90% reduced and ready to go. And then we had everything but salt, pepper, and olive oil was in the box. And then whatever sides were, roasted potatoes, green beans, almondine, whatever you wanted. Those were all pre-cooked, and you just had to heat those or do the finished cooking like the last 10%. Except the protein was sent raw, so you had to cook that because that was the best quality. But you're talking about 15 minutes per meal to prepare, and at a cost on average of about $9 per person, which that meant 4 people could have chicken marsala with green beans, almondine, roasted red potatoes. And all you had to do, with the sauce, everything done, prepared, sent to you, except cooking the chicken breast, finishing the cooking, which is heating, all pre-portioned, ready to go. And you could do that for like under $40. That's $34, $35, $36. And that was the gourmet line. That was pretty good. It actually got lower the more of each item that you ordered, the lower the cost got. I think we got that down to about $6 per person if you ordered 8. It's phenomenal. It was brilliant business model. And so all this aside, the idea was this was not against McDonald's. Stephen Hollingshead has a very large family, and it was his desire to have a large family. He always said he wanted a football team, which I think they've exceeded that by 1 or maybe 2 and that number of children. And he wanted to reverse the trend that had become this fast food dining nation, which was to reverse what McDonald's had done, which was to turn dining out into feeding, right? Because it became a habit of convenience. And nothing against McDonald's. He just wanted to make people, again, we spoke about it yesterday with Mike McLeod. If you missed it, it was a very good interview. He is the founder of the World Food Championships series, and he is an amazing person with great vision, brilliant marketer, I have to tell you, and real heartfelt passion for what he does, and true care and compassion for his competitors, the competitors that compete in his arena. Anyway, bringing people back to the table was the idea. So it made it easy enough for you to cook that you didn't feel burdened by shopping, cooking, cleaning up, and that was the idea, right? So it was, again, we shop, chop, and drop. You cook and get the credit. That was it. Now, this is in 2000 is when the business was established. 2001, actually, it went into effect a couple of months before I got to Houston, which was like late October 31st, around that time. So I go in, and we're making these meals, and we start getting complaints, calls that people can't get through the website. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, it takes forever for the pages to load. And so lesson number 1. We had this great technology to order with which to order. And I'm sorry, if you're commenting on Facebook, I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention. My bad. Let me go back to Facebook. Hey, let's see. All right. Let's go to Spoony. There we go. So we didn't think about the fact that it was an extremely graphics-heavy page. We had pictures. I mean, large pictures, very condensed versions of large pixel with many, many pixels on every page, not just the page that showed the entrees in your selection, how it was supposed to look on the plate, but every page. And so it took up to 10 minutes or 20 minutes per page to load because everyone was on dial-up. Ding, 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 ding. Shh. Remember? Yeah, back with the AOL days, with the only service at one point, that was the very first only service I had for, longer than I'd like to admit. But that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 was that geographically, we had built the kitchen in a place that was not really ideal for delivery to the more dense population of Houston. South of Houston is an airport, Hobby, and right next to that was an old catering kitchen that was used for the airlines. It's where Chelsea Catering used to be. A friend of mine, Monford Yakmik, actually opened that place, developed the menus. They used to cater to Continental specifically, but several airlines. I think 5 airlines they serviced, like a million meals a year or more. So it was this giant 20,000 square foot production kitchen. I mean, it was literally 20,000 square feet for one kitchen. Okay, we were doing like 400 meals a day. So figure that out. We had a 20,000 square foot kitchen doing 400 meals a day. Well, I think we got to 500 or 600 at one point, but we were certainly leasing a space which was way larger than what we needed, and our overhead was exceptionally high. Now, granted, we had a great deal on it, and actually a company that I do some work for now, it's called City Kitchen down in Houston. They occupy that space now, and they're big enough to use it. I mean, they've expanded. The kitchen as we knew it then had a range with an oven underneath, so it was an 8-burner range. It had 2 stacked convection ovens. It had a what we call a tilt skillet. It's a big square. I don't know what you call it. It's like an electric skillet, but it has really deep sides on it. But we're talking big, like 4 feet by 3 feet with a lid that closes. And we call it a tilt skillet because you can, as a crank on the side, that when you're done cooking, you can tilt it and kind of scoop the stuff out or pour it out this pour spout. Next to that was what's called a steam jacketed kettle. A steam kettle is it's kind of like a stock pot, a big stock pot, with a second jacketed layer around it, and steam runs between those 2 layers, and that's the heating method. What happens is it ensures that you never burn anything. It's very important, especially making stocks and soups and things like that. It makes it super easy. Or sauces, like we made a bolognese sauce there that Stephen was very famous for. Okay, now, the line we had, even for us, didn't have all the equipment we needed. Even though we had 20,000 square feet of production space, we had this very small cook space. Logistics within that building were very difficult because we had you had to walk around. They had this row of refrigeration, right? It basically ran parallel to the cooking area. The problem is you had to walk to the other side of it to get the food, the raw food out and bring it back around. Now, yeah, you're like, okay, it was a big deal. You had to walk to the other side of the fridge. No. It's a long damn ways. And when you're just 2 people making 600 meals a night overnight, because ordering stopped at 11, we stopped production at 7, and it was delivered before you got home at 4, guaranteed. 2 people, 6, calculate it. That's a lot of food. And basically, it was 1 person doing all those meals, 2 people packaging, because 1 guy was a dishwasher, right? 1 guy. The guy with his hand up right here in the studio. If you can't see, that would be me. If you're not watching on Facebook, you should go to Facebook. Go to Spoony Radio on Facebook. Check it out. We do a live video feed here every day, 1 to 3 Central, and 2 to 4 East Coast, West Coast. You guys can figure that stuff out yourself because you're on your own time anyway. Sorry, I know it's the land of fruits and nuts, but it is beautiful, and I love y'all. But, logistically, you have to think about that. How much time does it take 1 person that's doing 600 meals, and you have to walk back and forth, say, 27 times a day to a cooler, but it's 150 feet each direction? How much time does that take? It's a lot of damn time, right? So that was another thing. The facility was way too big for what we needed. It was great if we had grown into it, but the accelerated business model we'd had didn't work. And all right, so there are a bunch of other factors, but you take those into fact. We did not look forward enough on a couple of factors. We didn't thoroughly vet by trial and error prior to opening the system, not the concept. The concept was great. It was brilliant. Way ahead of its time. 5 years before any other meal kit really came on the market. Literally. So timeliness, right? Timeliness, because everyone's on dial-up. Or if timeliness is not the issue, there's a more technical reason for it, or a challenge to overcome, then that testing period is vital. So 2 other examples of bad business decisions, or bad just timing, right? One was in Bentonville. You've heard my seafood guy, Barry, right? The master of seafood, the slayer of shrimp, Barry Furaseth, who's an amazing, not just amazing guy, but he has the most amazing knowledge of seafood of anyone I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people in the industry. But we had a business together. We're opening up this Blue Fresh Fish Marketplace, which is still going. He's still running it in Bentonville. And we wanted to capture this business for the up-and-coming Bentonville Film Festival. All right, which is this week in Bentonville, this week and next week, I think. So we're getting ready to open, and we weren't quite done. As a matter of fact, we had a few days of work to do. As a matter of fact, 5 days of work to do, probably. And we hadn't tested the menu. We had some recipes, but we weren't sure what fish we were going to get on a daily basis, especially at the very beginning, because we had some challenges in trying to get the seafood brought into Northwest Arkansas. Logistics, as if you didn't know, Northwest Arkansas is a landlocked state. We don't have a coast, therefore the seafood, it's difficult to get in there. So, and this is like 5 years ago. We get our permits in place 3 days early, and 36 hours before, I didn't know this, Barry had decided we were going to open. He had placed fish orders. I didn't have a full staff. There were 2 people in the kitchen, 3 actually. Jeff Wetzel, the Cowboy Chef, myself, and Rolando, who was my fryer guy, but he actually wasn't there yet. Actually, he came in day 2. So we had no menu. We didn't know what fish we were going to get. And we didn't know our hours of operation. We had no staff. We'd never tried out the line. As a matter of fact, the equipment had never been, it was all used equipment. It really hadn't been tested. It had been tested, but not under heavy fire, right? But we all agreed it was important to get open because we needed the revenue and we couldn't miss the Bentonville Film Festival. Well, okay, great. The only problem was we weren't ready. And when you're not ready, it doesn't typically work out well. So we did not get our deliveries until like 9:30 that morning. And that was at the airport, which is about 20 minutes from the restaurant. The deliveries arrived. They were delivered to the restaurant about 25 minutes before opening. The equipment was turned on, and here come 300 people to eat, and we weren't even sure what we were selling yet. So in the kitchen, we made up 5 dishes, grilled tuna, ahi tuna. We had a blackened grouper sandwich with a mango salsa and ciabatta bun. We had there were a few other dishes on there. There was we had a risotto dish, right? There was some mussels and some other things in there, and there was one other, I don't remember, shrimp, grilled blackened shrimp, and there was another version of shrimp. Anyway, and of course we had hush puppies and fries. So there's 2 guys running, 300 people could show up for lunch, line out the door, and it's a very small shop. We could only seat like 12 people indoors, and we had picnic tables outside. We could seat another 20. And it was a cluster. It was a mess. It was ugly. No one ran out and walked away or said the food was bad, but we had the sentiments were known verbally and how poorly we had performed on the opening day. So rushing to open is never really a good thing. It tends to, when you're chasing money before you're ready to actually perform service, that's the worst business model to have. And I'm not blaming any one person. We all agreed to it. We all knew we needed the revenue. We all wanted money in our pockets. So it was a bad experience on that day. However, it took, over the next week, we figured it out. We got the right staff in and we got it up and running. It wasn't a problem. So fast forward one more time. About a year later, we had, I was working at another place I was brought in to consult with, and you've heard me talk about it. It's called Fred's Hickory Inn. Great place. It's been there forever. It was over 50 years, I think, when I was there. I think they were founded in 1966 or 7, or 66, yeah, or 68. 68, yeah, it'll be 50. So they're 50 this year, or last year. So, Fred's Hickory Inn. Beautiful restaurant. It burned down. They rebuilt the restaurant. They almost doubled the seating capacity, reduced the size of the kitchen, and by about 30%, and the cold storage was reduced by 50%. Okay, yes and no. That could be good, could be bad, just depending on how what the menu is going to be. And they wanted to streamline production. That's why they built the kitchen the way it was, and it was smaller. It worked out okay, but we wanted to do brunch. Okay. I think that was a good meal period that we could capture because no one was really doing not a lot of brunches in Bentonville, Arkansas, and there's a pretty big audience to capture. I mean, Jeff, do you like brunch?
Absolutely.
I love brunch,
yeah,
right?
I just don't like. It seems like brunch is really kind of a busy period of time, when it's like the waiting period. So I go to eat brunch because I'm hungry. We've missed breakfast, so we're kind of on that edge of hangry, right? And so because everybody else is doing the same thing, I mean, and I get it. I totally agree with what you're saying as far as making sure that the servers are properly taken care of and that you're kind and you're nice because, they're doing the best they possibly can, right?
Well, but I'll tell you why sometimes that's the restaurant's failure, though, and we're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
But you're right. You can only be patient so long. You're right. You can't just say, please, 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 please. Okay, please, please, please. Please, can I eat? At some point, you say, I want some food. I ordered 2 hours ago. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second because it happens more often than you think. So we sat down as a group. I as the executive chef, kind of director of operations. I was a consulting chef, and we had a pretty good opening, except for the pre-opening nights, which were the first night was ugly. Our POS system went down. Everybody booked from 5:30 to 8:30 came in between 5:30 and 6:30, and we had not enough seats, and tables changed, and they added people to tables. And anyway, that aside. We got through that. We were streamlined. It was going well. The kitchen staff was operating at near the speed of light. It was awesome. Until about 10 days before Mother's Day, 2016. At that time, we decided, yes, we're going to open for brunch at some point. And the owners decided, against my better judgment, that brunch, our first brunch, should be Mother's Day. No. It shouldn't. Really? Yeah, it'd be a great day to kick it off. Can we just have 2 items on the menu? Nah, just put the brunch menu you have there. It's only 16 items. Just do it. Do it. Okay, do you realize how many Eggs Benedicts that's going to be with 4 different versions? I know, but you can do it. I think they'd been drinking that morning. I'm joking. Randy, I'm joking. I love you guys. No, we were trying to get the revenue. And eventually, I acquiesced to their request, and we decided to open on Mother's Day as the first day of brunch ever, I believe, for Fred's Hickory Inn. And 420 reservations later, 420 reservations later, with 515 people walked through the door total that day, but before 2 o'clock, my head was spinning around, and I felt like I was the Exorcist, the person possessed in The Exorcist. What's her name? Linda Blair, right? Yeah, I thought just wait a minute, my head's gonna spin around. I was that out of sorts. So here's what happens again. People early, people late for reservations, add 4 people to this reservation. Oh, we don't have a reservation, but they're a special client. You have to let them in. Okay, yes, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, please come in. And then that reservation going up saying, but we had a table. I'm sorry, you know what? Just a moment. Oh my gosh, they're important too. Kick somebody else, kick them back a little bit, put them in. It was ugly. Ugly. And, poaching eggs to order. Now, there is a trick to poaching eggs that you can actually hold them for a little while after you poach them. And what you do is you basically take a steam table, right? And you put it on very, very low. We used to use a warming drawer at this restaurant called Pio's. We'd pre-poach the eggs and put them in this warming drawer, which is basically to hold bread with warm water in there. Warmer than tepid, but not hot. It wouldn't keep cooking the eggs until they'd been in there for 5 or 6 minutes. But you could poach and put a bunch in and serve some, and poach and put a bunch in. Well, we didn't do that. We had held a couple, but we didn't have the space nor the equipment to hold, 24 poached eggs at a time. So you can just grab in, dry them off, dab them off, and put them on top and put the hollandaise sauce, whatever it happened to be. And, well, not only that, I think they were famous for smoked sirloin, like a big top butter sirloin, like a 12, 16-pound roast. Basically, you slow smoke for 12 hours and then slice either thin, like a shaved beef, like an Arby's sandwich, but 20,000 times better, or cut into a steak of I think they had an 8-ounce and a 16-ounce steak. And it was wonderful. It was kind of like prime rib without any fat in it. Well, let me just tell you, we had a minute left in this segment. Ugly day. And of all the days for things to not go right, that may have been Easter, actually, now I think about it. It doesn't matter if it was Mother's Day or Easter. It was ugly. You never open a new meal period or a new establishment until you're ready. Because I'm telling you what, when you're chasing the dollar and you're not ready, now don't overplan it, don't overwork it. You don't have to wait till the crew's perfect. Making mistakes is human. But chasing the money before you're prepared never ends well, or it never opens well. It may end well because you'll be ready to just close the doors and say goodbye. Log it up, take the lease. I don't care. I'm running, pulling my hair, and I'm going to Jamaica. I'm going to tan my bald head. It's going to happen. But yeah, so it doesn't matter what your intent is, because you can't reward people based on intent. Right? You can't judge people based on intent. You can't judge a business based on intent. You say, oh, that's a noble cause. Great. Let's see what happens. It's based on outcome. And when your outcome doesn't meet the goals of the intent, especially in the eyes of the consumer, that's when the issues happen, that disparity between perception, intent, and execution. Anyway, Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro, right here on Spoony Radio. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. Don't forget to come back for the main course. I hope it's steak.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. President Trump is escalating his battle with Congress by claiming executive privilege over the unredacted Mueller report.
By invoking executive privilege, the White House is blocking House Democrats from seeing the full release of the special counsel's report on the Russia investigation. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says the president had no choice because of the House Judiciary Committee's actions.
Chairman Nadler is asking the Attorney General of the United States to break the law and commit a crime by releasing information that he knows he has no legal authority to have.
She says neither the White House nor Attorney General Barr will comply with Chairman Nadler's unlawful and reckless demands. Greg Clugston, the White House.
The Judiciary Committee is now in recess ahead of the contempt of Congress vote against Attorney General Barr. Iran has set a 60-day deadline for world powers to renegotiate the terms of its 2015 nuclear deal. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Iran's threat to resume higher uranium enrichment appears aspirational and vague.
I've seen the reporting, I've seen the letter that's been sent. I think it was intentionally ambiguous. We'll have to wait to see what Iran's actions actually are.
One of the U.S. sanctions is blocking Iran's sale of oil on the global market. Also at townhall.com, 1 dead, 8 injured in the school shooting Tuesday in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says this type of violence should not happen in an American school.
Every child should feel safe when they go to school. I'm a parent myself. The president is a parent, a grandparent, and our administration and our team is going to do everything we can to continue to look for ways to safeguard schools.
One of the shooting suspects, 18-year-old Devin Erickson, will make an initial court appearance today. On Wall Street, stocks rebounding after losses this week. The Dow is ahead 83 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075.
Have you done it? You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror?
I'm one of those people you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, most of us. But I mean, you look and you're going, what the?
I know.
How did I get to whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Hey there, it's Doc Thompson and Brad Staggs to tell you about a different way to shed those pounds. This is brand new tech. It's only been around for a couple of years or so. It was based on research from the University of California that said there's a molecule called OEA that's found naturally in your body. It produces it in the Mediterranean diet, that when taken in concentrated amounts, it will actually make you feel fuller and boost your metabolism.
I've lost about 10 pounds so far.
It's amazing.
It
Now,
really is cool.
A company said, we can take this to market and make this great product that'll help you. It's called RidUZone, RIDUZone.com, RIDUZone.com. It's Brad's worked. It's worked for Brad's, worked for me, countless other people. Go to riduzone.com and try today. You're going to love it. Riduzone.com. Remember that, RIDU zone.com.
Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us. Our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Yep, that's right. It's time for the meat of the matter, the entree of the day. Course 3 right here on Spoony Radio. This is Chef Patrick Mosher. Yeah, you know who I am. If you don't, you do now. You're either watching or listening or catching on podcast. So for you, it's live anyway. It doesn't matter. Don't forget where you can find us. You can go to spoony.com. You can go to the host page, the host menu. And I think... I don't know if all the shows are up on there, but I know if you go to Spreaker, I think we have 13 shows up on Spreaker now. They're not all loaded, but they're all up and ready to go. And if you see a show you'd like to listen to, let us know. We will tell you where to find it. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to grow. It's really fun. We have Cigar Talk Radio is coming on starting on Saturday with Rob Jones, and he'll do an hour show talking about the fine. The art of cigars. I mean, whether that's rolling cigars, enjoying cigars, how to pair. He was on actually a wind down. It was a What Are We Drinking Friday segment a couple of weeks ago, and I put him on the spot to pair a cigar with the drinks that Cheryl Heisler had come up with from Mixed Metaphors that she comes up with every Friday and Saturday. She came up with a drink. I paired a menu item with that, an appetizer, and then we asked him to, on the spot, pair a cigar with it, and it was brilliant. Did a very good job, and we were really excited to have him on board. But I was thinking, seeing that the weekend is coming up, and it's Mother's Day, you know, what are some things you can make? Casseroles are always a great thing for holidays, right? For the weekends, you feed more than one person, and we think of casseroles as a bunch of stuff mixed up and baked in a pan. But there can be some really more elegant preparations that even children can be involved in. Because this is, after all, Mother's Day, right? Mother's Day meaning you'd be doing something for your mother. Just saying. In theory. But children, kids love to make mom breakfast in bed or make breakfast for the family. Everybody sit down and meal. But casseroles are a really good way to do it. And everybody has the egg casserole. We do the breakfast casserole. You take the crescent rolls and you line the bottom of the pan and you take an egg custard mixture. It's basically eggs and cream, and you add some cheese into it and some flavorings and salt and pepper and garlic, and then you drop some ham in the bottom of the bowl of the baking dish, and it's all great. And actually, I love those kind of casseroles. But there are some other dishes that you can make, and some of them I talked about before, some I haven't. But here's some really unique things you can make that are casserole style. One of them is called Portuguese eggs, and I'll put the recipe up. I haven't had the recipe up in a while. I will be sure to put that up as a matter of fact. Mark that down, Portuguese baked eggs. And the reason I was thinking about this is last year, this last Friday, actually, we had a fan con here. It was a Mojo Con 2019. Had about 70, 60 plus, I don't know, felt like 120 of the listeners show up, and that meant the best way because they were very excited to be here, and they were very active and boisterous. But they showed up, and it was great. They commandeered the studios. I mean, they took over. They hog-tied us, kicked us out, and took over the shows basically for the weekend, which luckily we don't broadcast live on the weekend, so we're good with that. Some of our show content providers actually recorded a couple shows here. It was really cool. They all came in and sat down, and we enjoyed their company, and they gave some really vital input. But the year before, it was a Blaze, right, when Doc was over there at TMB, and I was on the radio with him. They did a fan con there. It was TMB fan con. And about 20 showed up, and I made breakfast. And one of the dishes I had spoken about a few weeks before that, it's called Portuguese baked eggs. And it's basically a casserole-style dish, but I mean, once prepared, it's very elegant. It's a beautiful dish, and there are other kind of varieties, or there are other varieties of this dish that are really similar. But basically, it involves toasted bread in the in the bottom of a baking dish. That's number one. So, what does the toasted bread mean? Each piece of bread is a portion. That's one serving that you serve to whomever happened to be sitting at a table. So, it makes it easy. You know, if you have 12 people coming, you can fit 8 in a baking dish, then you make 2 baking dishes full, and now you have 16, and that gives you some leftovers because, you know, Uncle John's going to have 2, and Jimmy might only have a half. Anyway, Portuguese baked eggs is so good. It's basically julienned red bell peppers, green bell peppers, yellow bell peppers, orange bell peppers, garlic, which is sliced, onion, which is julienned, and I use sweet onion, not white or red, but sweet onion, yellow onion. And that's all sautéed until it cooks way down. I mean, it cooks down maybe for like almost an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, till you cook it all out of the juices. And there are a few other, you can throw in, herbs, and there's some other things that go in it. But this is just, I'll give you the basic outline. I'll throw the recipe up in a minute. You take that, and then you add in a bunch of tomato that's been large diced. It's like if you have a beefsteak tomatoes work really well for this because they're really juicy. But say if you had a Roma tomato, yes, you know what a Roma tomato is, like the pear-shaped or like the well, they're more football-shaped than pear-shaped. The Roma tomatoes, an average size Roma tomato is about, you can't quite close your fist around it. That would be cut into like 12 bites instead of diced up into 24 bites, right? Just 1 by 1 inch chunks. You throw that all in, you cook it down, you add in the fresh oregano and all this wonderful herb spice, and then there's jalapeno that goes in there too. This is a Eastern European dish. It has actually a little heat in it. Paprika goes in there. You can use paprika chilies if you can find them. Okay, so once that's cooked, you take your toasted bread, and I used a whole grain thick bread. You grease a baking dish. I used a glass baking dish, and you line up the bread. And as close as you can, filling the bottom of the pan. Now, after that, spoon the julienne pepper mixture, right? That pepper onion mixture over everything, and until it's about maybe half an inch thick over the bread. At that point, you put a little divot with the back of a spoon, right, over the center of each piece of bread, right in the middle of the onion pepper mixture. And it's not just onions, but it's got that sauce from the tomato. It's really delicious. Salt, pepper, really, really zesty by the time you get it cooked. So you put a divot in the back, with the back of a spoon, like you have what? Like a regular teaspoon, and then you have like your bigger cereal spoon, a soup spoon that we call it in America, not the round soup spoon, but the bigger spoon. Use that. That's about the right size. And then in each one of those little holes, you drop a little bit of ricotta cheese, and then on top of that, you break an egg. And you may have to make it deeper than a half an inch. You might have to be like you press it down there so it's like a full inch deep, as deep as it'll go when you press the back of the spoon in there. You break an egg on top of that, and you salt and pepper on the top of everything. Then I took a mixture of Parmesan and white sharp cheddar cheese and sprinkled that on top. And then you bake the dish until the eggs are set, and I'm telling you what, it is phenomenal. It is one of the easiest dishes, one of the most elegant dishes. You can take any heat out. It's easy if you just don't put the hot chilies in there, like don't put the jalapeno, don't put any paprika in there. It's all good. Now, there are other dishes, though. If you've never heard of it, there's like croque madame or croque monsieur. This is basically the French version of a, let's see. It's a French version of I don't know what you call it. Is it a ham and cheese? Not really a ham and cheese sandwich. Not a grilled cheese sandwich. It's croque monsieur. It's good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. And basically, you can make a casserole style of this. It's kind of like it's ham, Gruyere cheese, kind of toasted in bread. Sometimes you cut a hole in the top and you put the egg on, right? So croque madame would be, it's the grilled cheese sandwich with Gruyere and ham. Croque monsieur would be you'd cut a hole in the top piece of bread. So if you've ever made eggs in a basket, that's another one we'll talk about. That's one of my favorite breakfasts. But the croque madame would be you basically make a Gruyere, and croque madame is the one with the egg on top. So you basically you toast all the bread. Take this get hearty bread, get whole wheat, whole grain, some sort of crusty bread that you can buy from an artisan bakery or your big grocery store chain, whether it be Whole Foods or what's the one around here? Not Kroger. It's H-E-B Central Market. Any fine bakery will do. Any not so fine bakery would do as well. Just make sure the cut is a little thicker than your normal sliced bread. So you toast that up, and I'm telling you, you can toast it in the toaster. Just put some butter on it and toast it in a pan. It's the best. By far. Now you take that and you put ham and Gruyere on top of one piece, top it with the other. But before you put the second piece of bread on, you cut a hole in the top of the bread. Now, this is where the eggs in a basket comes in. My favorite breakfast of all time when I was a kid was eggs in a basket. My mother would take homemade bread and she would slice it into about 1-inch thick pieces. She would cut the center of these pieces of bread out with a cookie cutter or a glass. If you didn't have a cookie cutter, she'd use a cup of the appropriate size, about 2.5 inches across. Cut those, and then take all of those pieces, and, well, actually, you didn't take all the pieces. You heated a pan. You can butter the bread on both sides, which is kind of a pain, but you have to. Sorry. So you butter the bread on both sides. Yes, I know it's even more difficult when you cut the center out of it. Trust me. But if you have a cookie cutter and you use the cookie cutter after you butter both sides of the bread, it's not as bad. It's not as messy, but the cookie cutter is sharp enough. You can cut through it quickly without crushing the bread, and then the butter doesn't make it stick so bad inside like it does a cup, because sometimes you can't get the bread out of the glass. All right, so you take that and you cut the middle out, you butter it all, and you put it buttered side down, which is either side, into a pan, and you want it medium hot. You don't want to burn the butter from the start. You just want to start toasting the bread, and then I put a little dollop of butter inside each of those holes and crack an egg inside. Yep, crack an egg. And then a little salt and pepper on top, a little garlic powder, onion powder, and you cook it till the egg whites on the bottom have set. And you lift the edges and make sure that it's browned. And then you flip them over and you cook the other side until they're done to your liking, whether it's well done or over easy, doesn't matter, it's up to you. But you have to kind of push down on the toast at that point, because what happens when you flip it is the egg tends to want to run underneath the bread, and then the bread doesn't get crispy. So I smush down on the edge of the bread. I know it's not, but it's so much better because it gets crispy. And then you take those out, put them on the plates, and then you toast those little rounds. That's my favorite part, actually, just toasted bread. But you put that on the side, and then you just serve it. It's like eggs and toast all in one. So you don't have to take your egg and like scoop it up onto your toast or dip it into the yolk. It's ready to go. Egg white, egg yolk, and bread all in one bite. It's brilliant. That was my favorite breakfast. But the French take it a step further, because the French have created the croque madame, in which case you've already made this ham and Gruyere grilled cheese sandwich. And basically, they cut a hole in the top piece of bread. Now they drop an egg in that. They sprinkle cheese on top, and you put that under the broiler in the oven. It's awesome. But, that's a lot of work if you're going to make that for, say, 8 people. So, is there an easier way to do it for 8 people? Absolutely. You don't have to make them one at a time. You take the bread, you cut it all up, you cut the hole, just on one piece. But you can now make this as a casserole. If this page will ever load, I'll tell you how. And so this is actually one of my favorite sites to get recipes from. It's called Epicurious. It's Epicurean, but it's curious. E-P-I, Epicurious.com. And it's pretty amazing. They have... I think it's Bon Appetit. They have like 5 different magazines they have all the recipes from, and consolidated from 20 years ago. It's amazing. It's a great site to search just when you go for them. All right, so they say this is the easy way to do it if you're going to do it for a crowd. 12 slices of day-old white bread, about 3/4 of an inch thick, like Pullman, pain de mie, or country bread. It's just whatever. A square-shaped loaf works best because the sides will match up in the pan. And I have to agree, I didn't say that earlier, but you don't want a round loaf. You want a square-sided loaf. All right, 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 3 cups of whole milk, a little bit of freshly grated ground nutmeg, and you shouldn't have to buy nutmeg. Nutmeg kind of loses its once it's ground, it loses the flavor, the scent, its zing. after it's been grated very quickly, and just buy the nutmeg, that little nutmeg. I mean, it's a nut. You just put it on the zester and it's done. A grater. All right, so you take a little bit of, it's about 1.25 teaspoons of kosher salt, a half a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, 3 1/4 cups of grated Gruyere. And Gruyere is one of my favorite cheeses. It's Swiss cheese without the Swiss smell, basically. That's why I like it. And it melts really well. Gruyere is one of the main components in a, what do you call it? Fondue, right? It's that distinct cheese flavor you get. You need a 1/4 cup of Dijon mustard, 12 thin slices of Black Forest ham, or whatever ham you choose that you got in the fridge. Matter of fact, if you throw some leftovers from that last holiday with the Easter Bunny, dropping eggs everywhere, that'll work. 6 large eggs and non-stick vegetable spray, or whatever you happen to have on hand, because olive oil works well, but if you spray it, it's a little easier to work. All right. So you take the top and middle racks of the oven, and you want them... the top rack can't be too close to the broiler. So you want those 2 or 3 rungs down, and then 2 rungs below that, you want the middle rack. Preheat to 375. Okay, if the bread isn't a day old, it's okay. But if it's really spongy, like when you push on it, it doesn't, it doesn't spring back, right? It crushes instead of, it's funny because in Europe, they call white bread Luftbrot, air bread. Because they say you can take the whole loaf, like American white bread, squish it into one piece, and then eat it that way, and it's got the density it should have. So if your bread is that white, white spongy bread we're used to here, Wonder Bread, you got to dry it out. So what you do is you put it on I'm going to use a baking sheet. They say put it on a baking sheet for 3 to 4 minutes aside and turn it. I just put it right on the rack. Put it on the rack. The oven's preheated to 375. It takes maybe 2 minutes to dry both sides out at the same time, and use a long pair of tongs, pull it out, put it on the baking sheet. All right, so once that's dried, it says 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't take that long. If you do it on one side, use a 12-inch cookie ring, or a 2-inch cookie cutter, rather, or a sharp knife to cut a hole in the center of 6, that's half of the bread slices. And then it says to trim the bread to fit 2 even layers in a 9 by 13 baking dish. Look, take 6 slices. If they don't fit in there perfectly, you don't have to trim them. Okay, because one side of the bread is fatter than the other, top is always fatter than the other side. If you don't have a perfectly square loaf, flip them end to end, and they'll fit because the fat end is now by the narrow end, and they fit perfectly. Okay, don't have to worry about it. You don't have to trim them. Just flip the bread around the middle piece. Flip it. It's okay. They make it more work than it should be. And look, it's okay if everybody's piece of bread is not exactly square and perfect. Because we're not in France. It's okay. This is America. Uniqueness is good, right? To each their own. Jeff's shaking his head at me. Yeah. Jeff, you know my French heritage. I can pick on the French.
Me shaking my head is I don't care if other folks don't get the square piece of bread as long as I get the square piece of bread. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but what if it's a rounded top loaf of bread? Do you still want it cut square?
Well, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be done. It's on a square piece of bread, then that's,
I think they're just trying to get the best fit into the baking pan, which I understand. But, look, if the bread fits, the bread fits. If it doesn't, trim it. It's that simple. So then, and it says put it in 2 even layers. Doesn't matter if it's 2 layers. You're not going to put 2 layers at this time. If one layer doesn't fit, trim it. Trim the other 6 pieces just exactly the same. 6 of them now have holes, 6 don't. That easy. Now, it says to do all that, put them on top of each other, then remove from the dish. No, you don't have to do it. Just trim 6. If you need to, trim the other 6 to fit exactly like the other ones were. It's good. Now you take everything out, you melt the butter, and at this point, you want to spray the baking dish while you're melting the butter. That's already done. Put it on the side. Now, melt the butter and add the flour. You're basically making a slight roux, and then you'll want to whisk it until the butter, it'll start to foam. Right, it gets really foamy, and it's like a soup. It's you don't want it to brown. You're not making a dark roux. What you're trying to do is you're trying to cook the starch out of the flour, that starchy taste. You need the starch to thicken. You don't want to taste it in this mixture. And the mixture is going to be. It takes about 3 minutes to get to this roux consistency. So you want to add the milk really slowly. And why? Why, Jeff? Why would you add the roux?
Because you don't want the milk to burn or splash or I don't know.
That was
That's why
a
I'm
good
listening to
no,
you.
that was a good idea actually. That was a smart guess actually.
Well, thank you.
But it's actually because if you put a whole bunch in at the same time, you have more liquid than you do this mixture, this butter, this cream, this fat and flour mixture. You're going to make dumplings basically. That's how you get lumpy gravy, right? That's why we actually, if I were to do this, I'd say temper the milk. All right. So tempering would be, I would heat the milk almost as hot as the roux. And then I would add a little bit of the roux a little bit of the milk slowly, not cold milk, make sure it's warm, add it to it very slowly. And then once it's, you get say, half of it incorporated, then you can dump the rest in. Because now you've already distributed the flour evenly throughout the milk, the flour and butter. And it's the same way I talked about making gravy in the past. You want lumpy gravy? That's fine. You can have, I like lumpy gravy. Because I just put the lumps aside and eat the rest of it. It's okay. And that's homemade stuff. But again, tempering the milk is the way to do it by heating it and then making sure, because if it's colder, it's sure to cook. Yeah, you're going to get little dumplings. I'm just telling you. And nobody wants little dumplings in their eggs. It's just not good. All right. So you melt the butter, throw in the flour, whisk for 3 minutes. And again, you don't want it to brown. It's going to be it's like a light peanut butter color, right? About half the golden brown that peanut butter should be. All right. Then you add the milk slowly. And so you don't want it to, you have to whisk quickly if you're going to add cold milk because I swear you get lumps. You'll be angry at me, blaming me for the recipe. It failed. No, it didn't. I told you whisk quickly or heat the milk. No choice. Nothing in between. You increase the heat to medium high, and you want to cook it until it starts to thicken. Now you've just made a bechamel sauce, basically. Yes, I said bechamel. Yep, look it up. Bechemel, bechamel. It's the basis for all cream sauces, cheese sauces, etc. in France. Yep, one of the mother sauces. Look it up. There are 6, kind of 7 mother sauces. We count 6. Look them up. Demi-glace, Espagnole, ketchup, mayonnaise, aioli. They're all mother sauces. Oui.
Are you saying mother sauce?
Mother sauce.
Forgive me, but does that mean it's superior over another sauce?
It means
does that mean it's like the go-to sauce? Why call it mother sauce?
I'm glad you asked, actually. So a mother sauce are the essential sauces to make every other sauce in French cuisine.
So it's the base.
It's the base for all other sauces. Well, one of the bases, but there are basically 6 or 7, depending on who you talk it to, right? So, all right. So you take the mother sauce, and to that, what do you think you're going to... It's a bechamel, right? Bechamel. What are you going to add? Nutmeg, salt, pepper. Then you whisk in the cheese. This is how you make the cheese sauce for mac and cheese. You start with the bechamel, you add the cheese, whatever your mixture is. But in this case, you're making a bechamel sauce with Gruyere, and that's going to be your topping, right? Once you add the Gruyere, this is called sauce Mornay. Yummy, yummy. Yes, sauce Mornay. If you ever heard of Mornay sauce, like if you get a fish with Mornay sauce, chicken with Mornay sauce, it's bechamel sauce with cheese. That's it. All right. So now you have about 3.5 cups of sauce. So you take 1/3 of the sauce and you put it in the dish. Remember that you need to coat the dish first with non-stick cooking spray. Put the bechamel sauce in. You take the 6 whole piece of bread and you spread them in a single layer in the bottom. Spread a little Dijon mustard on each piece of bread. You top it with this second slice. With a couple of slices of ham. And then if you have to fold the ham in so it fits perfectly on top of that piece of bread. Because remember, you have to put another piece of bread on top of it, and you don't want it to overlap the other sandwich, right? Basically, you're making sandwiches in a pan with a sauce on it. So once you do that, then you take the 6 pieces with the whole. Oh, actually, you need to put about 1/3 of the sauce that you have over the top of the ham on each slice of bread. Then you put the other slice of bread on top that has the hole on it. Now, after that's done, what do? You crack an egg in each hole, put a little bit of that sauce on top of each one. It actually comes out to 1/3 of all of what's remaining, which is 1/3 of the total. You put that over the whole thing, little salt, little pepper on the top. You now, they say to put a piece of foil over the baking dish. That's okay. You can do that, but you need to remember to take it off later. So you can take a piece of aluminum foil, spray one side of it, and put that side that you've sprayed this nonstick spray on, that side down, seal the dish, put it in the oven. Now, it's going to take about 20 minutes to cook everything through. You're basically baking, but you're steaming. It's convection, right? And then you remove the foil, increase the temp to about 400 degrees, put it back on the middle rack, the top rack, because you don't want to broil it. Because what happens when you broil it, according to Chef Patrick? You burn it. Okay? Top rack, 400. Bake it for another, 8 to 10 minutes till the eggs start to set. You'll see the yolks are just starting to turn to a little pale, and you're done. Let it set for 10 minutes before serving so you don't burn your loved ones' mouths. And there you have breakfast. I will post this recipe right now from Epicurious, Croque Monsieur, or Croque Madame, rather, for Mother's Day. All right. A couple seconds. Hey, Laura Gina will be calling in from, where's she going? Ramo de Olivo in Bentonville, Arkansas. Come on back. Wind Down Wednesday.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter at Food Biz Pro.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can help you have more energy, and polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony.
Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
All right, so if you're watching me here, I'm looking at Jeff going, okay, so I really don't hear well, so you can yell in there. I know, so there's this cool thing that we have. It's called a talkback channel. And so Jeff or whoever's in the booth can talk to me and you can't hear it. So we can talk about you. Well, we can't. He can say anything he wants. He could say, dude, you don't look good today. What are you hungover? Or he can say, Patrick, great segment. Or, hey, speed it up, dude. We're almost done. Or your caller's online, which she is, of course. But he's trying to tell me technical stuff. And you know what I'm going to do? I can't hear him. So I'm like, I don't know. I heard he said something about...
two things.
Yes.
First off, I like your haircut.
Thank you. I got my ears lowered, folks. It's about freaking time because I was looking pretty scruffy.
Like I was second off, your colors are ready. Yeah, just FYI.
I did. Yeah, I did. I actually did have the screen up, but thank you. But thanks, man. I appreciate the haircut comment. Thank you. You look pretty dapper yourself, man.
Well, thank you.
Nice color for you. It's not, there's no color. It's black.
We'll leave that alone.
Anyway, so it's cool. The technology we use in these studios is fun. As long as I forget to unmute the mic before I talk and mute it before I do talk during the break, everything is okay. So, man, we should tell stories about the stuff that has happened between break when the mic has been unmuted.
That's a big no.
All right, I'm going to let Laura on the, hey, I'm going to tell a story real quick, but I'm going to bring Laura online. Laura, you online there? How you doing?
Hi, Patrick. I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm not bad for it's Wind Down Wednesday. I'm doing pretty damn well. Thank you very much.
Good.
So I was just talking. We were talking about like the technology that's used here, and I have to apologize to one of our hosts actually. So, and I'm going to do it publicly. Gwen, there are 2 times now I have done something that has interrupted your show. And Jeff is laughing and he's like, Yes, you did.
Because I told you no.
I know, but you didn't tell me why no.
It doesn't matter. 3
Oh,
times.
but it does because
3 times I said no.
I know. No. Okay, so here's what happened. So we had a show coming in, and the host is they wanted to make sure we checked the mics before the 4-minute break at the top of the hour, and I understand why, because we had a bad mic cable once when we had an extra guest in here. We had to run an extra cable in the middle of a show one time when the cable didn't work, and I get it all, right? So he's just very cautious, and we always test the mics before the show. The problem was not a problem, but in that meantime, Gwen Rich of the Rich Solution, her show has gone live on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. She's on at 9 a.m. in the morning Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. And that live show, if it's not a live show or it's broadcast remotely, typically it doesn't go through our board. It's our automation system picks it up, it plays it. You know, you either think it's live or podcast or whatever. It doesn't matter what you think, it sounds live. Gwen is actually live. So when Gwen is live, it runs through our board, and I can't do anything in this studio that doesn't affect her show. So I forgot that, and I was like, "All right, hey, I'm gonna test the mics for Trey," and he goes, "No, not. Why are you doing it now?" Or she I said, "Why don't we?" He goes, "Why don't we do it at the top of the hour?" And I'm like, "Because I need to do it now. That's the protocol for Trey." And he's like, "No, I'm telling you, don't do it now." But the thing is, if I don't know the why, I don't know the why. Why not? So I had forgotten. And Gwen, I apologize twice now. I apologize. I'll call you later and tell you in person. I know you knew who did it because I'm sure somebody told you it was me. But anyway, so it was only for, a short time, but I felt awful because I interrupted her show in the last couple of minutes that's when the good stuff comes. That's when we make you wait till the end because that's when we get the words of wisdom, how to contact us and make our pitch, That's how we sell our wares. Well, that's how I sell mine anyway. I have nothing to sell right now, but you can buy it anyway. Call 1-800-555-PATRICK. There you go. Don't call that number. I don't know whose it is, but anyway, Gwen, I'm sorry. And Laura, I think I need a drink because, I just publicly acknowledged how much I embarrassed myself on this. I should not be able to touch technology that is regarding the radio. That does this right here. This broadcast, this studio. No, I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. Unless Ron says, do this now. Do that next. Okay, stop. Don't touch anything. I should not be allowed in the control room. But anyway, no one's going to stop me because I'm a partner. I can go in there anytime I want. So, back to you, Laura. Are you drinking yet? Because I'm sure that the Bentonville Film Festival is going on.
You're causing me to want to drink.
No, I'm not going to mute you. It's okay. I'm not going to mute you.
No, I know.
But, it's Bentonville Film Festival time, and I told this story about how Barry and I rushed to get Blue Fresh Fish Marketplace open. And how that rush to capture business sometimes is not always the best course of action. And a lot of times, nowhere near the best course of action. So I told that story, but the Bentonville Film Festival is so much fun. And if you don't know who Laura Gein is, she is the proprietor, along with her husband, Tom of Ramo di Olivo. It's a wine bar.
Ramo di Olivo.
It's so much fun. It's such a cool little store. And if you've never been to Bentonville, Arkansas, yes, I said Bentonville, Arkansas. It's not just the home of Sam's and Walmart. It's the home of Ramo di Olivo. That's the only reason to go and visit, besides Crystal Bridges and Slaughter Pen Jam and all those wonderful mountain biking trails. And well, there's a lot of stuff to go and visit. But you guys have the coolest little shop in town. I have to tell you, I miss it. I miss stopping there after work and having a beer and talking to you and Tom.
Thank you. We do love our shop, and we love being here. And our town is very, very quaint. And it's not just, like you said, the home of Walmart, but it is super quaint. We have so many things going on. We have a beautiful museum of Crystal Bridges, and we have the Amazeum, and we have a natural history museum and of Native history. And we have Peel Mansion, and right now we have going on the Bentonville Film Festival, or the BFF, as it's called in town. And that's a great, great film festival put on by Gina Davis and Trevor Drinkwater. And the whole premise is inclusion, so women and diversity and inclusion. And so the films are really awesome. And we're excited that they've chosen our town to have it. Walmart and Coca-Cola are big sponsors of it, but it started today. So some of the films are, and the filmmakers are on their way here, and whoever comes in for it. It's so attainable, especially people who live in the Dallas area. To drive over for this film festival would be amazing for them. It's super fun and quaint and easy to get to. So in the past, they used to bring in these trailers for the movies, if you recall, Patrick.
They were actually and they actually weren't bad. They were actually very cool. They were like these screening trailers that would seat like 50 people, some more, but some less, and very cool.
Super great. I always liked it. I thought it was cool, little venue, but they don't have those this year. So the first year, like you said, you were rushing to open Blue, and they were rushing to figure out this film festival with a town with no movie theater. Well, now we have a really nice movie theater called the Skylight, and we also have they have redone our old newspaper building called the Record. That has become a venue, and then the Meteor is also a venue for movies, and then they also are using the Walmart Global War Room. So we have 4 venues. They didn't bring the trailers this year, so the movies are at the Record and at the Skylight and the Meteor and the War Room. So it's kind of neat. Everything's walking distance, and they kind of downsized it a little in some ways because they don't have the vendor village this year either.
No,
so
really?
That more people are walking around. Yeah, they're walking around to hopefully to shop in our local shops and restaurants.
Nice.
Less giveaways and more really just focused on the actual films and the filmmakers.
Well,
so I think it's kind of gives it a little more authenticity that way.
Well, that's
you
so.
Don't mind me saying?
No, I agree. So you're in a town where every vendor who wants to sell to Sam's and Walmart has to, in some way, shape, and form, appear there, right? And so you have, and every company of any significant size that sells to them has to have an office there. So you have all these vendors with all this product that they dedicate to giveaways. Like if you go to what's the big the golf tournament? It's either coming up or just occurred, right? The
LPGA.
At Pinnacle, the LPGA at Pinnacle. They
at Pinnacle.
So it's the women's LPGA tournament. It's an amazing tournament every year, and I mean each there are so many every so many holes for the well, if you have a ticket, basically you're a spectator, you get a bag it's a Walmart bag with all this product in there. Like it's got everything from shampoos, it's all sorts of stuff from Procter & Gamble, all these big companies, and it's cool. It's nice because you get all this free stuff, but it's also it's this huge advertisement for those companies, and the fact that they kind of took that away from the film festival is nice because I know for a lot of shops. Because they had the vendor village and all this stuff, it took business away, and it drew people away from downtown and wandering around and enjoying what there really is to enjoy there. It's a cool little place. It's like what did Doc used to call it? It's like Mayberry with billionaires.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but
yeah, I know, and a lot of people, like some of the filmmakers, they just enjoy it so much because the town looks like the set from Back to the Future, and that's why some of them have actually chosen to use this as a venue. They actually built a production studio. It's Kickstart Productions, and they built a film studio here, not too far, and they're starting to produce films here and TV shows and commercials. So
that's awesome.
It is Mayberry in so many ways. It really is, which makes me in a really good spot. Our shop, our wine shop, and our olive oil shop, and our wine bar is in such a great spot because we're right in the center of it all.
Oh, come on!
So, we're really blessed to be here.
You're so far out of town. You're like 1.5 blocks off the square, something like that.
Off from the square.
Yeah, I mean it's.
I know it's
such
crazy.
a cool little
it's
space.
A crazy long walk.
Well, what I like, you can walk. So being from the East Coast, I'm used to growing up in a place, and you're from New York as well. Growing up in a place where you have a neighborhood, right? A downtown or every town in New York that's of any that's small, a couple of thousand to 50,000 has a downtown area, even 100,000, 200,000, and then of course in the city you have your neighborhood where within 20 square blocks at the most, 10 square blocks more than likely, you have everything you need. Your dry cleaners there, your place you get breakfast every day, the place you eat lunch, your work, unless you have to commute, you don't. But you have that everything you do, your entertainment, and then you have your weekend places that you visit. But I like that sense of community. And I think that's missing. And
exactly.
Onyx Coffee Lab is one of my favorite places to go. I've been there in a long time, but they've designed a space that's very conducive to that. They have those really nice leather sofas that you can sit in like a group of 8 and face each other and have coffee, and you can brainstorm or bring your family in for coffee and treats or hot chocolate and, some really yummy bread and toast or whatever. They have people are like, jam and toast.
Yeah.
You go, no, jam and toast there is pretty damn good. I'm telling you, for $6, it better be, but it's really good jam and toast. That's not $6, but I'm just saying. Wow, your door's ringing off the hook there. You got customers coming in?
Oh, yeah. I'm at the front, so I don't know what's going on. Don't know what's going on.
That's good. It's good. That's the sound of money.
Ringing. There's things happening. Yeah, I know. That is money. Actually, it's been a little bit of a blustery day. It's been raining, but it looks like it's drying up now. So hopefully we do have more customers today. But, it's okay because it's Wine Down Wednesday. They're going to come in.
Yes, they
They're
will.
come in this afternoon after they've seen some movies.
So do you have any tasting flights going on now? Anything special you're working on? Anything, any vintners you're promoting or new stuff that's coming?
So this week we kind of were, just gearing up for, like I said, the film festival. We tend to get some people later in the week. It gets a little bit busier. At the beginning, today's the first day, so everyone's just trying to get their bearings. And we're kind of looking at, lately we've been really gearing up a lot with some of our French wines, some just really easy to drink table wines we're promoting. We have this great brand called Malou. It's from the Loire Valley, and they have a rosé, and they have a Chardonnay, a stilled barreled Chardonnay, and they have a Rouge, a table wine. So that is one that a lot of people I've been selling a lot to. The millennials are coming here in droves, so they want something. They just want easy to drink, inexpensive wine. So I've been gearing up with a lot of French wine. I have another brand that's called Flying Solo, and these wines are so affordable. They're all at $12, and they're
awesome.
blends typical of. $12. I sell it for $12 a bottle. They're so great though. They're easy to drink. I've got like 4 different kinds of lines of great French wine from liqueur to Flying Solo to the Malou. They're just really fun. And then I've got another line of wines that I just picked up from Charles Smith in Washington. He has a line of wines called Vino, and they're all the most common Italian varietals. So I have like a Moscato, a Pinot Grigio, a red table wine, and a rosé from him that are also uber affordable at $14 a bottle.
That's awesome.
I've been selling this wine like to all the millennials that are in town now because that's their price point.
Well,
but then, and it's good.
No, it is.
I'm telling you, you don't always have to spend a fortune on wine to have good wine.
Yeah, no. My average price point's about $12 to under $20. That's my average price point.
Right, and you want to, there's plenty of fabulous wine over 20, but that's the catch, to find some decent wine that's under 20. And we had talked earlier about, what do people ask us about in the wine shop? What are the questions that we get?
Yes, what are the most common questions? And so I sent you I sent you a list, and then I talked about how kind of it was kind of a bougie list of questions from Napa. And no offense, I love Napa. I love going to Napa. I love the wines there. I know you and Tom go often, a couple of times a year. But I was like, really, that's the question you're going to say the top 10? You're full of crap. That's not what people ask you when you come in here. So let's see what people really ask you, right?
Right.
That's what I'm more curious about.
What do they ask me? So a lot of times, first thing people ask is, do you recommend? So that is definitely the top question people ask. I think in wine shops, period, because it can be overwhelming if you're not, a wine connoisseur, which who is. Maybe some really great brands, but you don't know. What's new, what's good, what do you recommend? And so that is a huge, huge question here. The thing about that, too, is I love that question. We love turning people on to new wine. The other thing is what I like might not be what you like. So I try to ask the questions back. What types do you usually, are you a cab drinker? Do you like Pinots? Do you want something more fruit forward, something lighter, white, red, so you kind of need to ask the questions back to the customers, and then they'll kind of direct you. Oh, well, I've read a lot about Oregon Pinots, but I haven't had one. So then I can direct them into some of my favorites. So one of my favorite Oregon Pinots right now is Averin from Oregon, from Willamette Valley. We serve it by the glass, and we serve it and we sell it by the bottle. It's right at $20 in the shop, so that's not a bad for Oregon, because Oregon Pinots tend to be a little more pricey. And then if we're talking about cabs, and like we know Napa's all cab, right? It's all the big cabs. But I like to steer people down to Paso and Paso Robles, because there's some great cabs coming out of Paso. And in fact, my family and I drank a great cab last night, and it's called Eberl, and it's a Paso Robles cab from 2015, and we sell it for $22 in our wine shop, and it is outstanding. And it's not as well known, because Paso Robles isn't as well known as a growing region, because it's newer than Napa.
Yeah, but what a great growing region. As a matter of fact, I have some olive oil right here from Paso Robles from Dow. It's yep, it's great, awesome stuff. Very expensive, but worth it.
Right. And that is the high end stuff, but we also buy most of our olive oils from that region too, because it's
phenomenal.
Such a huge growing region. Almost all of it comes from the Paso area, Fresno to Paso. So it's young, it's vibrant. I love going there, and it's a little harder to get to. It's not as well trodden as Napa and Sonoma.
Well, I wouldn't have bought the Dow,
fun.
but it was given to me as a gift, so I thought I had to take it. I'll take it off your hands. I know
everyone's
can't complain.
Trying to impress you.
No. It's actually one of our friends, Valerie Sokolowski, and her husband Doug. Their son actually used to play. Remember Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman?
Yeah.
Okay, their son was the younger doctor on there.
Really?
Yeah, the young man. That was he had a long acting career. He was he started as a child, but he was he was on the very first episode of what was it with Johnny Depp? What was the cop, the teenage cop? They were all teenage police officers.
21 Jump Street.
Thank you.
Oh,
he was in the very first episode. He was
Jump Street or something?
Yeah, 21 Jump Street, yeah. He's actually the criminal that's running away that they arrest, right? And you don't see him again. He comes back later in another episode as another character. But, so he's had a long acting career. And he actually wanted to do a wine show for us at one point. He has a lot of friends with vineyards, and he's so busy, and never worked out. But his mother has a podcast, Valerie. She and her husband was a very esteemed businessman and worked for IBM and a lot of big high tech companies back when that industry being established. And she's a life and business coach, and so they invited us to dinner, and that was really Tom and I went. Tom, one of our partners, and I don't know why I got that gift, but I'm very grateful. I mean, I think because they expect me to cook with it,
Absolutely.
But I probably need to make something with it and take it to them. That would be the smart thing to do. So Valerie, if you're listening, I shall bring you a treat. Maybe olive oil cake. You ever had that?
Ooh, that sounds good. I have. There's a new little
favorites.
baker in town, little bakery, and she's doing some amazing stuff. And she wants to come in and chat with me about some olive oils. She wants to make olive oil cake.
It's kind of like the Italian version of pound cake. It's a little bit. I mean, it's it's awesome. It's one of my favorites. So I digress.
A little denser, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend as number one, right? And then what are some other questions that people ask you?
Okay, so even though we were looking at that article, people ask me all the time, it's kind of, do you have Arkansas wines? First, that's the second question. Do I have wine from Arkansas? And I honestly don't. and I feel kind of a little bit bad about that. I mean, I should carry some Arkansas wines, but truly they're not. It takes a certain palate for it. very, very jammy, not very, it doesn't taste like sophisticated wine, put it that way. And so I do not carry Arkansas wine. People always want to know, well, what wines, where do you get them from? Where do you get the wine? And so honestly, we get it from distributors. We do not, they think we can buy it directly from vineyards, and I cannot. There's too many laws that way. You cannot buy directly from a vineyard and just bring it in. I have to actually go through distributors, and I'm sure that saves everyone a job. And I wish I could do it that way, but I cannot. And then another question people get is, if because I always tell them, if you don't see it, ask. So they're asking for they'll ask for certain things. How come you don't have this, or why don't you have this? And I have to tell them I don't carry the super mass-produced wines. Mine is more a boutique wine shop. I try to mostly carry small batched boutique wines, different wines that you wouldn't see at a big box store kind of thing. So there's that. And so those are some of the questions that I get. Of course, people do want to know about organic, and I get it dry farmed a lot.
Do you really?
Do you have dry farmed wines? And so I had to do a lot of research on that, because I was wondering, because none of the wines say they're dry farmed. So nobody says they're dry farmed. But apparently a lot of the Italian wines are dry farmed, meaning they don't irrigate. And or it's so it's dry farmed. I think maybe because their vines are so old, they can do that. But definitely wines in the United States, are mostly irrigated, especially in California. But I think maybe up in Oregon, they're more dry farmed because they get so much rain on their own.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest
difference. There's more organic.
Well, and just based on where you are, what region you're in, and what altitude and what latitude, blah blah blah. One of the interesting things about it may have to do with the vines and how deep the root system goes, but I would think it's that. I know a lot of farmers now that are doing they're capturing the rainwater, right? So what they'll do is it's because when you start pumping water out of the ground, the mineral content's different. And it's completely different. So rainwater is one of the purest forms. The pH is pretty much neutral, and it's perfect for farming. And so I know a lot of farmers actually in Texas even that do that. So they capture this rainwater and they use that as their on smaller farms as at least a portion of their irrigation or their sprinkling systems. And I always found that fascinating that it turns out a much better product. But
it does.
Yeah,
and that's the same with the sulfates. Because there's natural sulfates in wine, and then there's obviously lots of farmers that add, which it's best not to add. We like the wines that they don't add. So
I mean,
but that's hard to monitor.
And it's also hard to they have to some wines, right? They're trying to preserve what they have. The problem is, it's typically never mind. I'm not going to bash those products. So it's typically a product that's a little bit, I don't want to say inferior, but lower end anyway, or mass marketed sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're preserving a product that's not necessarily in a way that's probably unnecessary to some extent. And you're just inundating with a product now that's kind of diluted from what it should have been. So it is what it's business, right?
Well,
it's all business.
It is business, and I mean, I understand it. Some of these vineyards who are mass producing these wines, that's the thing. They're probably going to have higher sulfates. That's another reason why we try to go to the smaller batches. They're making less amount. They're making less cases of wine. So they're selling. They can sell it pretty. They sell it out. And so that is another reason that I think the quality of the wine is better. So we, and I try to explain that to my customers too. The quality of the wines that we have here are really good, even for those, little inexpensive ones, and that's the thing. People think they come into a shop, they think, ooh, everything's super expensive. When I show them that our prices are a huge range, they come back. Well, that really captures an audience too. We really try to get everyone in, and we're not going to be a snob about it. Yes, we have some awesome, expensive wines, but you don't always have to spend $50 for a good bottle of wine. there's some great cabs in the $20 range too.
Absolutely. So
it's just.
We got just a little bit, about a minute and a half left. But so what are you drinking now? What are you and Tom enjoying right now? As far as I know, you drink a lot of reds, but is there anything special you found lately that you really enjoy?
Well, we're drinking Albarino like crazy. It gets hot here in Arkansas like it does in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's humid, so we like those Spanish whites that and some of the unoaked Chardonnays. We're really turning into some white wine lovers. We always were red, and now we're really starting to enjoy some really great crisp whites. And Albarino is our favorite right now. We have one on our list that's called Noboa that we really, really love. But there's so many good Spanish, Albarinos out there that you can experiment with. And again, they're not too expensive. You can get them from $10 to $15, and they're awesome. That's just a great white wine to drink in the summer, to experiment with.
We were going to get to another topic about, Mother's Day brunch and breakfast, and if you're serving mom breakfast and bread or making a nice lunch, but here's the lowdown. Serve bubbles with everything, right? Doesn't matter if you're making, I just gave a croque madame recipe over the air, which I just posted on Spoony Radio Facebook page. Doesn't matter. Bubbles go with everything, whether it's alcoholic or not. It cleans the palate. It tastes yummy, and it's pretty easy to drink. So, Laura, where do we find you? Is it Ramo D'Olivo on Facebook and the webpage, correct?
Instagram, and our webpage is ramodelivo.biz. Yes,
Awesome.
You can find us anytime.
Well, happy Mother's
right,
Day. You have a
thank
great
you.
weekend. Thanks for calling in. I'll talk to you next week.
Yes, you too. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it. That's it. Dessert's done. Fourth course, not digesting, but digesting. We will talk to you tomorrow. I'm sure I got something fun going on. Listener starve.
This is the only 24-hour Take Anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The White House is invoking executive privilege in the ongoing battle with House Democrats over the special counsel's findings.
Press Secretary Sarah Sanders defends the move as a response to the blatant abuse of power by Democrat Jerry Nadler, who chairs the House
Don't turn off
Judiciary
the phones.
Committee.
We need 'em.
She says the White House and Justice Department